Hey, it's Aaron, and today I want to talk about an article that a friend of mine wrote, John Gorham, over at Torque News. He talks about, uh, electric vehicle adoption and why it did not change last year. Now, he's basing his data on an article that was attempted to be pretty upbeat. Cox Automotive, they're pretty well known in the industry. They track a lot of things pertaining to the markets. And this article that they did here on January 13 was attempting to be pretty upbeat, but was kind of masking a lot of not so good trends that John immediately jumped on. John is an engineer by trade, so he's just naturally good with numbers. Go figure. and he made this chart right here in the middle of the screen, and it illustrates that the growth in the electric vehicle sector by when you're looking at not just numbers sold, which is what Cox kind of focused on, but by percentage of overall market, did not grow that much. It was about 0.3%, I want to say it was. So way less than half a percentage point of total market share gain, which is what really matters with electric vehicles. You can sell 5 million of them if you want, but if the total market is 40 million, you're not really selling that many in comparison. So kind of along those lines. And then John points out that despite there being more models and pretty heavy incentivization, there we go, in the 2024 year, there really wasn't any growth overall to show for that. So he breaks it down a little bit. So you can see that 0.3% gain there in that first bullet point, and the lower deliveries. So 4 EV brands had lower deliveries, including Tesla, which is a little bit telling for Tesla. But Tesla's kind of been on a shaky, on shaky ground for a while. Just because they haven't updated anything in quite a while, and the Cybertruck wasn't as big a deal as had been hoped. So, Tesla generally is trending, and honestly, this is also telling of the kind of market penetration, and also basically the buyers that are going to buy have already bought, and you're only going to get the handful that are turning in and getting a replacement at this point. So the market is pretty saturated as far as people who are going to buy an electric vehicle. There really isn't a whole lot of growth trend there yet. There isn't potential for it right away. There will be soon, as things improve, as people get a little more comfortable with the idea of plugging in and charging, of public charging being available, of home charging being an option. But right now we've pretty much hit, I think, penetration point. It's as far as it's going to get. It's saturated. Now we're just going to kind of wait for the public infrastructure to catch up, which is going to be a while, especially with the new administration that just came in. And then also it's going to take a little while for people that do not have garages, for example. So people that live in apartments, housing with no garages, housing with no parking even, which is a very common thing now. All of that, those people are those are still the people that can afford a new car, that are kind of the next penetration point. You're not going to get the rural folk like myself. You're not going to get the people that live in more sparsely populated areas, and you're especially not going to get people that travel any kind of distance on board with an electric vehicle. That's going to take a long time. So the next market that needs to be hit are the people that can't necessarily easily charge at home. And those people are people, like I said, they're apartment dwellers, people with no garage or park, and possibly no parking, people like that. People that need to get them, you're going to either need to get them to charge at work, or you're going to have a robust public charging setup. And right now, that isn't a thing yet. It's getting there. There are a lot of public chargers available, but they're not always online, they're not always fast, and they're often crowded where they're needed most. So that's the sort of thing that the market has to change before it can start penetrating further than it has already. Given that, there are a bunch of other bullet points here that are very important. There were 68 EV models in 2024 that were being tracked by Cox, which is far more than there were just 2 years prior to that. So that's a big change that did not equal larger market share and should have. That's an indicator of where we're going right now, the near future. So I predict 2025 is going to be another non-growth year, and I think that 2026 will be at best a marginal growth year. I think we're going to be getting really close to that 2035 mark that they wanted 50% penetration before we start seeing even more than 15 or maybe 20 at most, but I'll be surprised if we're at 15% penetration by that point. It's a really good article. I'll link to it down in the description. I think you should read it. And then he gave me his original, which is this one. He gave me this as his source material, so I will link to this as well. This is good information, but like John did, put a grain of salt on this because Cox is really trying to play up numbers that don't actually matter here, because the idea is keep the positive spin. Cox does that with a lot of things. In the end, they are a marketing source. They are a source that other, like car dealerships and people in the automotive industry go to for information like this. So they always try to make it so that it's slightly positive at the very least, and always has a way to spin it positive. Because, again, very little in the world is news anymore. Everything has somebody's personal opinion and spin on it, including this. And probably John's article. It's the way it is. But I think John was very, very clear and honest in his projection, in his showing of what this data shows. And I think it's important to understand that, because the bully boys behind the electric vehicle movement are hitting some harsh realities, stuff that I and others have told them was going to happen for 5 or 6 years now. So anyway, there you go. It's kind of it's a combination of I told you so and here's some good data. So there you go. Check out those articles and let me know what you think. Hit me up in the comments below. This has been Aaron. Talk to you again soon.